Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble News channel. I think Jamie Dimon doesn't like Bitcoin or says he doesn't like it in public because he likes the idea of money that can be programmed and watched. After hearing that people like Larry Fink support Bitcoin as a way to store assets, he might want to change his mind. Don't forget though that Larry Fink was also against Bitcoin a few years ago. He has clearly changed his mind since then. That seems like it will be true for all of these. There are people on Wall Street who have been very negative about Bitcoin in the past. As more big names get into Bitcoin, one question still stands. Are they here to increase the value of Bitcoin or to destroy it? A famous investigative reporter named Whitney Webb is sure that other important Wall Street people who didn't like Bitcoin before will soon change their minds. Bitcoin is becoming more and more popular, even among people who used to be against it. Like Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon might start to see how Bitcoin can help him. Big names on Wall Street may start to see Bitcoin as a good way to store their money, which could mean that more people are starting to accept it. Think about Larry Fink, who has said that markets work better than authoritarian totalitarian states. When the government is totalitarian and authoritarian, there is a lot less risk. That means people like Larry Fink can make more money when there is less risk. Plus, they know how to sell things and buy things. A lot of that is because of how well it works with the public sector. Since it benefits him, Larry Fink is one of the main supporters of shareholder capitalism and all that other stuff. Sadly, it hurts freedom. Tokenized deposits are another name for deposit tokens. JP Morgan has done a lot of work on these and is likely to get you to know about their JP Morgan coin, which has made like crazy amounts of money in the transactions it's seen or been a part of over the past few years and other things. As for me, we'll see, but he's not against a lot of the fintech movements that are happening in the interests of some governments, intelligence agencies, the UN, or other groups that want to see most of the world, if not all of the world, adopt some form of programmable currency, which is basically what the CBDC is. The main reason why CBDCs have been criticized is because they're programmable and can be watched. Not because they're issued by a central bank. Fiat is issued by a central bank, so I understand that's not so much the issue with CBDCs, it's that they're that easy to hack and watch. It's possible that the government isn't actually writing and spying, but is JP Morgan? If so, does it give all that information to the government that they work with all the time? In real life, is it really that much better? No, I do not believe so. Finally, as we already said, people like John Reed who helped build this business have said that financial monitoring is the best. People in this group want to keep an eye on you and work with the people who help them get where they are now, and make it easier for that kind of end game that we're all quickly moving towards. Endeavor is kind of like these other groups that did similar things. I see them as a result of those older groups. That's why we talked about the Club of Rome in our last piece. Deck from above, there were links to the Green Plus program we were looking at there. The Club of Rome, which got its start with a group called Adela, which is an acronym, the Rockefeller family, and many other powerful business people, mostly in Western Europe and North America, backed Adela. Their main goal was to improve the business and economic situations in Latin America. They basically picked the companies they wanted to succeed and gave them a lot of money based on the situation in the country they were in. It's not like there are any other rivals that can match the amount of money that's being put into these specific companies. The people who run those companies become like local rulers, but they owe their newfound power and influence to the people who fund them. So, if people from the West, like the Rockefeller family, want a certain strategy to be put in place in Latin America or ask for a favor, will those people say no? I doubt it very much. Do you agree? So that was done in Latin America a long time ago by strong networks in the West. What's even scarier is that the same people at Adela, along with the Rockefellers and the people who later gave money to the Club of Rome, have been big supporters of things like deindustrializing and depopulating Latin America by making the continent unstable and putting in place all kinds of other issues or policies. Kissinger actually wrote a memo about national security that said pretty much the same thing but framed it as a threat to national security. For example, Adela got a lot of good press at the time, with Time magazine and other publications saying that they were helping Latin American companies. There are a lot of positive ideas about groups like Endeavor in South America, but the problem is that the people who started them, like Rottenberg and Kellner, have ties that are troubling, as we explain in the piece. Also, the people who gave them millions of dollars to make them what they are now are very disturbing, especially Piero Midyar of eBay and the Brownfield family, who have a lot of ties to, some of it we've already talked about, but there's a lot more to say about both of them. There are also a lot of philanthropies that show that many of these very controversial billionaires want to give money to young people who will become leaders in the world. Recently, Klaus Schwab, the outgoing chairman of the WEF, said on video that the Young Global Leader program is great because it lets us get into cabinets. This made the program famous, and many people thought that's why all of these young global leaders were in cabinets around the world during COVID. That's one reason why, so many countries may have taken the same position and practices when it came to COVID-19. Endeavor is a similar network, and a lot of the young people who helped make it are also part in Wednesday's Casares. Furthermore, these individuals work in both the public and business sectors. As we've already talked about, Endeavor focuses on the private sector in emerging markets. As we said, there is a big push to make Latin America totally dependent on the U.S., financially tied to the U.S., and with all of its resources owned by the U.S. In fact, powerful people have said something similar in the past, though maybe in a less clear way. To give you an example, I'm sure that John Bolton, who was Trump's national security director and is a very unpopular neocon, has said things like Latin America is basically ours as a result. Attempts are being made to make that happen. Some people say that Endeavor is a way to build these corporate landscapes in a way similar to Adela. It makes it look like it's decentralized, but they actually share a lot of the same connections and funds. In addition, entrepreneurs can be persuaded by important people at the top when they call them. I would argue again that the most important thing here is that the main Endeavor-backed companies, many of which are based on Endeavor Argentina, are quickly becoming the most popular places on the continent to do business, use fintech and crypto, and of course use Bitcoin. Even more so when you know that people are being forced to use these sites because of what I would call an engineered economic crisis in Argentina that has been going on for decades. People like Malay were chosen because he said, I'm going to dollarize, but he might not be now, although stablecoins are a way to sort of get that. In terms of Bitcoin and payment rails, these are the main players. It all centers on Mercado Libre, which is the continent's biggest online store and one of the first companies backed by Endeavor in 1999. For example, Marco Scalper is a big name, but his co-founder at Mercado Libre made Kazakh ventures with another Endeavor entrepreneur. They've given money to thousands of startups like this. Because you don't want to lose your funds, all of these companies are often tied to it.